Welcome back to the Shared Voices podcast. It's been a while since we recorded. We had a little break there. Things got busy, with just Christina and I running the podcast and running the organization. We've been spread thin, but we're blessed. God surrounded us with people in our life that want to help out, want to share their voices, want to help host and co-host some of these podcasts. So as we get started back up, we're still in season 2. We're going to be having several episodes that we're recording in the next couple weeks, and we'll try to get back to the weekly release of the podcast. Today, I'm excited. This is awesome. I got 2 people sitting right here that just a couple weeks ago, we probably never would have imagined that we'd be sitting around together talking in a podcast. I just want to introduce both of them and allow them to introduce themselves. The 3 of the people in this room, we actually used to all work for the same city. And we all had our own journeys, had our own struggles, our own victories. And God has brought us back all these years later to be a voice and to help share first responders' voices. And what an awesome opportunity. We have Sam and Cory in the house. And Cory, you want to tell us a little bit about you, your background? Just give us a brief summary.
Yeah. So been in the fire service for 20 years almost. Next year will be 20 years for me. Like you said, 15 years with Indianola.
Yeah.
So currently is full-time with Urbandale Fire. And then just taking it one day at a time.
Yeah.
Every day. So
20 years in the service.
20 years. Next year will be 20 years.
Does it feel fast or does it feel like it's gone slow?
Fast.
Yeah.
Super fast.
It seems like when I was when I was active, it was like the days went long, but the months and years went fast.
Yeah.
And
it's crazy, man.
Yeah. Man, I'm excited you're here. I've got to hear a lot of your story. You and I've got to catch up, and I'm excited to share that with our audience.
Yeah.
Because you have an awesome, amazing story, and just so blessed that you're still here on this earth.
Yeah.
And sounds like you have a passion inside of you that you want to help other first responders and give them a little bit of light and show them some hope.
Absolutely.
A lot of darkness out there, and I just thank you for being the part of the 1042 project and trying to be light to the ones that are struggling. Man, that's awesome.
I mean, like I said, I'm super excited to be able to be out there and help.
Yeah.
I think for the longest time, we don't talk about it, right?
Yeah.
So the more you get out and talk to people, the more you realize, wow, like people are struggling. They just don't want to show it until you actually open up and be like, hey, I had struggles. I had problems. And then I was actually able to talk about it and open up. And it's amazing how people just, okay, I'm comfortable now. So
that's what's awesome. And Sam, thank you for joining us too, man. This is awesome. Who would have thought? Here we are, buddy.
Yeah, that's right.
So tell me, catch everybody up with a little bit of your past.
Yeah, so as we're just discussing, been in the fire service for 15 years, started at a young age, now retired from the fire service from a medical injury. So I think I get a lot of funny looks when I'm sitting here at 32 years old saying, hey, I had 15 years in the fire service, but that is the reality of it. I think what's a little more profound, like you had mentioned, we all worked for the same city, but not only we all overlapped, we all worked together.
Yes.
But here we are nearly a decade later, reconnecting. And like you said, never would have thought I would have been sitting here with this group of people.
Yeah. And did any of us know that the other ones were struggling during that time?
I would say no.
I would say no.
No.
Nobody knows. I mean,
right. And that's what's cool, about this podcast and what we do. There's nothing special about us besides we're just willing to talk about it.
Right.
It's going to be honest.
Yeah.
First responders all over the country are dealing with the exact same thing that the 3 of us have dealt with. They just haven't had the voice, or they haven't got the help they need to where they can start speaking openly and talking like we are. Because, like I said, there's nothing special about the 3 of us besides we've come together and decided, let's be a voice and let's show others how it's okay to talk about your mental health. And I think you two, we all last week sat down for lunch, and you two have the heart of what our organization's about. And that's what I love. It's about giving back to the others, you know, helping their voice be heard, and help shine a little light on what type of help is out there. And help smash the stigma, guys. The stigma in law and I was about to say law enforcement because that was my line of work, but first responder is the stigma's crazy. How we all just beat each other up. Nobody wants to talk about it. And just, you know, real quick, Sam, sorry, looked at the wrong person. Did you notice that in your career, the stigma?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, since our lunch last week, the amount of reflection I've been able to do has been amazing. And the first thing that came to mind was, you know, we always talk about the brotherhood. And why does anyone want to be a police officer, a firefighter, a paramedic? Is because of the brotherhood. And I will say, towards the end of my career, and some of my struggles, I would honestly say the brotherhood didn't exist.
Yeah.
But again, this is the brotherhood.
That's right.
So smashing that stigma brings it back. This is what it's about. This is what everyone talks about.
Yep. Yeah, and I think our generation, you know, can be the one of change.
Absolutely.
You know, and no offense to the the generations before us, they were just repeating what the generation before them did.
Mm-hmm.
And I really see a notice in this generation where it's like, no, status quo is not okay. We're not going to keep letting people in their life. We're not going to quit letting first responders quit, you know, and have addictions and marital problems. And you guys know the gamut that comes with all of that. Like, this generation, I really believe, is called to become the agent of change for this first responder mental health.
Yeah.
And you guys are part of the Army. That's what's cool about it. With the stigma with you, Cory, what was it like, you know, briefly through your career? What did you notice?
So, like, when you were just talking about like the generations before, we have not only the stigma of not talking, but especially in the fire service, I don't know about the law enforcement or anything else, but like that's the way we've always done it.
Yep.
And change is hard. We don't want to change because change is bad.
That's what they think. Yep.
That's what they think, right?
Yep.
But I do agree. I believe like we're making changes, and it's okay to open up. Like I was so scared, you know, because I knew I had issues. I wouldn't say early on in my career, but you know, a couple years in, I was like, man, like I have some issues, but
Yeah.
the stigma, you know, like nobody talks about it.
Where do you go, right? When you have those thoughts, when you have those feelings, where do you go where you can just say, hey, I don't know what's going on. I need some help. I need some brothers and sisters around me to help guide me in a healthy way to work through this. And so many of us have just shut our mouths through all of our career, and that's what I would have needed in my career, honestly, was just a senior officer to come along after some of these calls when I'd started my career, put their arm around me and say, hey, buddy, you're not alone. I hurt too. Let's talk about this, and kind of be an example to walk it out. I just didn't have that. I don't think a lot of people did.
I don't think anybody. I mean, that was like I said back in the day per se. Like you didn't know where to go. Like you knew that you didn't have anywhere to go or anybody to talk to.
Yep.
Because if you did, then you know
You're sidelined.
you kind of get blacklisted. You know, like oh, this guy's he's weak.
Yep.
You know, he can't handle the job. Well, I can. It's just I need somebody to talk to. I need somewhere to go, and we didn't have resources back then.
Yeah.
I'm sure we did, but nobody. You don't talk about it.
You know something that's funny? Not really funny. I shouldn't say funny, but throughout my career, you would hear other first responders say this about other first responders about if they were struggling. You know, somebody thought somebody was having an issue. They would kind of chuckle about it, be like, "Man, it's all in their head. They need to get over it." Well, of course, it's all in their head.
Right.
It's mental health. Like
That's the problem.
That's the problem. It's in their head. But like we use that word like, oh, it's all in the head. She's just crazy or he's just crazy. Like, no, it's in the head. That's why we need to address this. Like,
Right.
And I would say this, and you guys would agree. Boy sarcasm, gallows humor is rampant in first response. That's kind of how we pretend we deal with it, right? We pretend that we're not hurting, so we're making jokes about the accident scene, saying things that are obviously inappropriate, things that would not make sense for other people to hear.
Yeah.
But we say them, when I say we, the first responder community, say them, I mean, almost daily after endearing calls. And it's a way to cope. It
Right.
is. I mean, it's a way to cope, especially to get you through that time while you're going through, when you're in the trenches going through it. But that humor, eventually we got to put it away and then start addressing with the real side of it and the real feelings of it. Man, I start to lose my train of thought here, but that's what's fun about a podcast. You can be honest and open. Cory, do you mind? We're going to do a couple of the, just so you guys know, we're going to do a couple of these podcasts with the three of us. And Sam's got a story, Cory's got a story, and you guys have gotten to hear my story. And let's just go ahead and jump into part of it. Cory, if you don't mind, we'll start with you.
Yeah.
Because I think people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Right.
And you care for a reason that a lot of people may not, you have an extra layer of caring, I guess. When I tried to end my life several times when I was, popping hydrocodone pills and drinking vodka and playing with my gun and sitting in the bathtub empty. When I was doing that, man, and I'm losing my train of thought again, I start to get emotional when I talk about that time. Anyway, when we go through that stuff, Cory, where we're trying to end our life, we're trying to use things to numb it, and we do things where we try to end our life, and there's no reason we should be here on this earth anymore. The amount of times I tried to take my life, and I'll let you share your story a little bit as much as you feel comfortable with. But when you get that second lease on life, when something like you and I had gone through, and you find this whole new purpose on your life, it's like you're able to put all the pain and turn it into purpose, and you get this fire inside of you where you are just driven and motivated to go out and shout from the rooftops to everybody about this help that's out there, the hope that's out there, the fact that you don't have to do this alone. What you're feeling is normal. I've noticed that in you, man, just like in me, and Sam has his story too, and there's something about that fire inside of you and inside of me and Sam that is contagious. And when we start to speak about our mental health like we do in episodes like this, we get to be an example to other first responders on how to talk about their mental health in a healthy way.
Yeah.
How they can be open, honest, transparent, no dumb questions, ask anything, like this is what it's about. And boy, your story really, really hit my heart, and I think there'll be a book about it someday. I really do. I really do. But you could go ahead and share as much as you want, man. It's your story. Sam and I are just going to sit back and listen to you, and if we have some questions, we'll pipe up. But I just want to give you a chance today to share your story.
Yeah. So like I've told you guys before, and everybody listen, like I'm an open book now. Before, like anybody would ask me questions, I would just shut down.
Yeah.
Now any question, like if anybody wants to know anything about my life or what I went through, where I am now, like open book. So my adventure, I guess, started, like I said, it was 20 years. My first call was, wasn't even out of academy. So
How old are you?
I was 20 years old.
Yeah, that's when I started my career, 20.
Yep.
Honestly, I felt, looking back, I was probably too young.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah. And that's
what I love about Sam. Because Sam, when did you start? When you first got it?
Yeah, like I said, just shy of 15.
Yeah, we were talking before we started recording, and he was telling me when he started how him and his dad decided to volunteer, and that's kind of how he got into it. Guys, we all started young.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dang. All right, go ahead. Sorry, buddy.
Well, and that's kind of adding on to that. Like, I think as the older guys or senior guys, like you see these young guys coming in, and they want to be aggressive, and they want to see what's going on. For me, it's kind of like, I know where I was. I didn't have the opportunity to kind of be like, okay, just stand back and don't. You're trying to help them,
right.
and I never got that. I kind of got that, like we're talking about the stigma of don't talk about it. So
Suck it up, buttercup.
Yep, and that's what it was. So it was a carload of teenagers that had snuck out of the house, took their parents' car, had the headlights off, basically rolled it in a ditch, and we had one fatality, a 14-year-old female. But she was laying in the middle of the road, and my good buddy came up to me, and he was like, "Hey, this is your fight or flight. Either you can deal with this or
Find another career.
yeah, find another career. Like, this isn't for you. Don't talk about it, So for 20 years, I wouldn't say 20, probably, 18 years until I got help. Like, that's how I was. I never talked about it. I think we talked about it before, the pop bottle effect.
Yeah.
Once you get full of all these emotions and you shake that bottle and the top comes off. But throughout my career, like, I went on a lot of super bad calls, a lot of kids. Sam and I actually were on a pretty, to me, it was devastating. I mean, to a lot of people, it was devastating. I lost I think he was 8 years old in a car wreck, but like, I knew from a long time, like, I had problems.
Yeah.
Depression set in, anxiety. I got anxiety just out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Nightmares. Yeah, it was getting to the point, even in my marriage, like, I would just isolate. Like, I didn't want to be around my kids. I didn't want to be around my wife. Didn't want to be home. So that, and to add on to that, like, no emotions.
Yeah.
For so long, like, you don't show happy, you don't cry.
Yep.
God, if you cry, oh boy,
Yeah.
watch out. Here comes a weakling.
Now I love crying.
Well, like, later on I'll tell it, but that's ultimately that's what caused my divorce. Was I didn't show emotions. I didn't show her happy. If she cried, I would just be like, stop.
Yeah.
I didn't tell her about bad calls that I went on because it wasn't her burden, which was the absolute opposite. Like, you need to tell,
Yes.
not the horrific side of it, but you need to open up to your spouse
Yes.
and let them know so they can cope with it with you. And I never did that. And we ended up getting a divorce finalized in 2022. After that, I started
How long were you married?
6 years.
Okay. And kids?
Yep. 2 kids. Wyatt he's 8 now, and then Emmett's 3. So he wasn't even 1 when we got divorced or separated.
Yeah. That's a lot. So you're dealing with your mental health. You got your 2 kiddos. You're going through a divorce.
Yep.
And you don't know what to do.
Yeah. I had no one to talk to, right?
Yeah.
At least I thought, like, because after how many years, there's nobody to talk to. Like, nobody can help me. And I started going down that spiral, man, into that dark hole. I was hopeless. I had no self-love for myself. I was worthless. I was a piece of crap.
Yeah.
And then June of 2022, I was sitting on my couch. And I just had enough. I don't want no more pain, no more, feeling hopeless, and just nobody's going to help me.
Yeah.
So I grabbed my handgun, put it to my head, pulled the trigger, and nothing.
Nothing.
So I racked the gun, grabbed the bullet, and I've told you guys I still have the bullet in my gun safe, but it still has the indention on the primer where it didn't go off.
So the firing pin it did engage. It just.
Oh yeah. Yep, it engaged, but it was either a faulty primer or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah. Somebody up above was watching out for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my oh my God moment,
Yeah.
and I talked to my ex-wife about it and told her what happened, and she just happened to be on vacation with one of her friends, and her boyfriend is in the same local for the fire union as I was, and was talking about the Center of Excellence.
Yeah.
4 union firefighters, EMS, dispatch, and basically she called me one night. I was at work, and she said, would you would you be willing to try this place? So I kind of looked it up a little bit, and I was like, you know what? It can't hurt, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to go down that road again. So July 8th of 2022, I was admitted. It's in Maryland.
Okay.
Upper Marlboro, just right outside of DC.
And what is the center of excellence if nobody, if people are listening and don't know?
So the Center of Excellence, like I said, it's run by the IAFF, International Association of Firefighters.
Okay.
Again, it's for firefighters, EMS, dispatchers. There's no outside people. So it's just strictly first responders.
Love that. Very important.
Right. And it's a way to open up, because you listen to other people go through their stories and you can relate to that, and you're like, okay, like it's okay to open up, I guess.
Right.
You know, like the first day I was silent.
Yeah.
And then the second day I was kind of like, okay, whatever. But the third day, man, I finally opened up. I bawled my eyes out, and everybody came up and hugged me. I'm like, dude, like anybody can do this. Like, I feel so much better.
Yes.
It was amazing, like truly amazing.
All the fears you had that you thought would happen when you spoke up, it was all a lie. It all turned out to be positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like it's a stigma.
Yes.
And, you know, and we go down that dark hole, and you don't talk. Well, once you open up, man, like once I opened up, anything you want to ask, that's when I became an open book.
Yeah.
Like there is no, you don't shut the book.
That's right.
Ever.
Yep.
And so the Center of Excellence, sorry.
You're fine.
Again, it's for first responders, but they combat mental health, substance abuse, alcohol abuse. And it's Monday through Sunday, every day. It's 8 hours in a class. I mean, you get to switch classrooms. It's not the same one for 8 hours, but I mean, they go over, everything, man, resilience and being mindful and how to, take your negative feelings and turn them into a positive. And I had a trauma class. Mm-hmm. It was me and two other guys. It was Mustache Dave. Dude, his mustache was legit classic. Had the curls and stuff. And
dude, that's nice.
Yeah,
nice. I couldn't pull that off.
See, I've tried, man, but I just and then Jason, but they take your top calls like that really mess with you.
Yeah,
like every nightmare I had was the same two calls, but they break it down, and just go over it and make you realize, like you process it and you go through it and you realize like there is nothing I could have done.
Right.
Like I did everything right.
Yes.
And it's not your fault. Yes. And that shame and guilt, you're like, oh, like I can let go. Like this wasn't my fault. And they break it down, and it's amazing.
And didn't you say that, I think this is cool, that they did that. Didn't you say that it was kind of set up like a firehouse? Yeah.
So
walk me through that.
Yeah. So there's 4 buildings, like house 1, house 2, 3, and 4. But yeah, they're all set up basically like a firehouse. They have a little kitchen in there, but in the main living room or the main area, there's recliners and chairs all set up in a circle with a big TV, big open bunks.
That's cool.
With all your beds. So, you're sleeping with your crew per se.
Yeah.
So
yeah, us cops, we don't sleep together. That's for y'all.
Well, dude, my new station, I got my own room. So
that's nice.
Yeah.
Is at the older, as at other stations, Sam, and do you not share rooms?
When I was with Dallas County, my station, I had a private room, but then in Indianola, I started sleeping in a broom closet that was private. That's
nice.
It was
that was a laundry room.
Oh, I'm sorry, my bad. The converted laundry room.
Yes,
and then through the construction project, we had common sleeping areas just because there was nowhere to put us. So
that would suck. That's one thing as a cop. I'm glad I could not imagine living with. I love the people I work with. I couldn't imagine living with them, man.
Yeah, it's
now for transparency, we're not sharing the same bed.
Well, that's good. Hey, that's good. There's boundaries to this. That's good.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So you got to Center of Excellence. How long are you there?
So I went there July 8th and I graduated from the program August 12th.
Awesome.
So
Wow.
I came out, like I said, I mean, beyond thankful that this place existed.
Yeah.
The thing is like nobody ever knew about this. The first time I heard about it, I've been with Urbandale 6 years in the union and I've never heard of it.
Yeah.
There's so many people that have never heard it. It's like, how are we not putting this out there?
Right. And that's part of our, 1042 project. That's part of our mission, is to help people understand the resources that are out there. And then we want to help remove all barriers for people to get there, whether it's financial or the fear of doing it alone, or, we'll fly with people out there if we need to different resource facilities, because we truly, truly mean that nobody has to walk alone. We will always try to put another former first responder with you and around you, because I think it's important, Sam, to not only just have counselors and doctors and psychiatrists and stuff involved in our mental health, but there is something, I'm telling you, something deep about having a fellow first responder around you who's been through it, who's in the process of getting healing as well. There's power in this. Go back to the brother sistership thing we were talked about to begin with. When we do have a true brothership, like we do here at the 1042 project, there's power in that. Knowing that somebody gets you, understand you. You don't have to describe what going on a fire call is like. You don't have to say that. Everybody in the room gets it, right? People, they understand it. You can just talk about it. There's something powerful about that. Have you noticed that since we started hanging out and talking about this true brotherhood?
Oh, absolutely. I just think the little group message we had going on all week,
Yeah.
I laugh because if my family hears this, they're never going to believe I text somebody back. Group messages are my least favorite thing in the world.
Me too.
But, there was just an energy that when I saw, hey, your name popped up, or that group message, group name popped up, like I wanted to read it. I wanted to engage, because there was now all of a sudden more value. It wasn't, something I dreaded talking about. It wasn't something that it's like, oh great, they're trying to get me to say something I don't want to talk about,
Yeah.
I think, you mentioned the lunch that we originally met at last week. I think all barriers were broke down there.
Yes.
But you're right. It's because I don't have to explain to someone who's never been in the world, what do you mean you're struggling with the fact that you dealt with a dead body?
Yeah.
What do you mean you're struggling with this? Like, isn't that your job?
Yeah. You signed up for that.
Yeah,
Oh, I
exactly.
hate hearing that. I hate when they say you signed up for that. Like, come on, man. Yeah, we did sign up for this tough job, but it doesn't mean we have to be okay with the trauma we see every single day.
Right.
Yep.
Like, yeah. But that's the power of using your pain for purpose. Like, doctors and all that, they're very important, but it's also very important to have people around you who understand you. And the conversation the three of us got to have the other day, Cory was with me that whole day. We kind of had a fun day going from, met with a company in Des Moines that's going to sponsor our organization. They really want to give back to the first responder community and help them with the mental health. So we met with First Call Restoration in Grimes, and what an awesome ownership they have there.
Yeah.
Boy, their heart for first responders is amazing. And so Cory got to come with me to that, even though I called him Cody in the meeting. That's never good, but
Yeah,
it's because Cody Smith.
right.
That's why I talked. So anyway, I just go off on tangents sometimes. Anyway, but Cory, that day, man, as we went around and we met and spoke, and you got to talk to other people. We went out to Godspeed Ranch, the equine place. What an awesome experience that was. But I was telling you this throughout the day. What's the secret sauce to the 1042 project and how we do things? Like I kept saying, like, there's no secret sauce to this. What is it?
I think honestly, like you were saying, like the pain we've had and dealt with when we were talking that day, like you can go to a therapist that you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to open up to you, but if it's, brother, I've been there. Like
Yeah.
I've tried to end my life. I've tried to, I've been in your shoes. People open up.
Yep.
And that's what I feel, especially here. Like I can talk to you. Like you've seen some stuff. I've been on some calls with you that
Yep.
were just, you're like, what the heck, man?
Mm-hmm.
So I think for me, being a part of that and being able to, like I said, I mean, help anybody I can. If you help one person, that person opens up, they open up to somebody else.
And the power of it is, we're always in the healing process, right? Because we're never going to be able to do the Men in Black. You just hold the pen up and flash your memories away. We're still going to have these thoughts of these calls. We're going to have these visions that pop up from time to time. It's about capturing that thought and capturing what we do with that emotion when we deal with it. That's what growth looks like. That's what healing looks like. And that's what's kind of magical about what we do when we get to speak to each other and do that is, I'm losing my train of thought, Sam. What was I just saying?
Well, let me build on that, I guess, a little
There
bit.
you go.
You were
Thank
talking
you.
about the secret sauce, and, Cory, as you were just discussing, the thing that's running through my mind is how simple.
Yeah.
How simple is it? This episode we've talked about the stigma, the fact that we can't show weakness. Cory, we worked together for 8 years at Indianola-ish.
Something like that. Oh, wow. Yeah.
And we're just now connecting like this. Like how, and what did we do? We just talked about our calls. Nothing changed.
Right.
But we got rid of the stigma. Why can't everybody do that?
Yep.
And
we put truth to our calls. It's not like we just sit around and we're telling war stories of how gross this call was. That's not what we're doing when we talk about that. We're not necessarily, talking about, we are talking about what we saw in our calls, but we're talking about the emotions we had during these calls and how they stuck with us and how we didn't process them or how we did process them. And that's what comes out of these conversations.
Yeah.
That's what's pretty cool. And nothing against counseling and all that stuff. That's great. I go to counseling every other week. I still do it. It's important to me. It gives me a place where I can go away from, where it's not first responder related, and I can just go and talk to somebody where I don't have to talk about that. So it's very important. Doctors, medicine, all of that. We're not saying that's important at all. But what we are saying is a lot of times in this world, we're missing out on one of the greatest assets we have, and that's each other, and that's our voices. And you guys heard me say this several times, but people may be impressed by our strengths, but they connect through our weaknesses and our vulnerabilities. And sitting and talking like we are all doing right now. I mean, that lunch we had last week, all the walls came down, I felt like, for all three of us, and we were able to be humans again.
Yeah.
And feed life into each other. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And I think, again, the walls came down there. The important thing is identifying, no, we can't replace the professionals.
Yep.
But I can say for myself, I'm definitely more open to talking to a professional again. I know when we get into my story a little bit, I'll, I've already told you guys about my experience with professionals and what turned me off from them.
Yeah.
So,
And we hear that a lot, that they get turned off by them. Someone will get turned off by them and never go back to that help. And that's not our goal.
Yeah.
Our goal is to help you get comfortable to where when you do go back, it's fulfilling.
yep. So how simple just to have a friend you can go to. And again, it's not just, Dan, we hadn't connected since, 2015.
Yeah.
Again, a decade, and never thought we'd connect again. It's not saying you need a stranger that knows what you're going through. Me and
Right.
Cory worked together for 8 years, and we can connect now. Like we probably should have 8 years ago.
Yes.
That's crazy, man.
The power of sharing voices, right?
Yeah.
That's why it's the Shared Voices podcast. We're sharing our voices. That's the sauce to this. We share. And we're going to go ahead and wrap this episode up. And we're going to have one and maybe two more to come with the three of us. But we're at the 34-minute mark. So for your guys' well-being, if you got ADHD like me, we know you can get antsy. And so we're going to shut her down. And we will be back on with a new podcast. You guys, thank you for joining us. Like I said, we're going to have more podcasts coming up in the future. We're going to be trying to be more consistent about how we release these podcasts. So if you can, please like, share, comment, let anybody you know. If you're a first responder, we encourage you to please listen. Also let other first responders that you know hear about us. And if you have a voice and you want to tell your journey or your story, this is not my podcast. This is not 1042 podcast. This is everybody's podcast. And I want to hear it. I want to share it. I want to hear different points of views, different types of treatments and help that are out there. And so thank you guys for joining me on this one, and we'll wrap it up, and we'll see everybody on the next one.